Thursday Night
Ugh.
Football. I know it didn't get to
Ugh.
it. Like it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting Commanders, Eagles, and a shootout, and like so much scoring, and it was
I
not
know.
that.
You know the worst part about it?
What?
Terry McLaurin.
I
Terry
know.
McLaurin has
I
owned
know.
the Eagles in his career. Like legit, like he just smashes them every single time. How he only saw 2 targets last night is beyond me. I have
Quinyon
no
Mitchell.
idea how that happens.
Well,
None.
I
I
do.
have no idea how that
Quinyon
happens.
Mitchell.
I think now, Lindsay, can we agree that Jaden Daniels has lost the label of must start quarterback?
Well,
Because I mean, it's not been good.
no.
Let's look at the numbers. First 6 games, 22.4 points per game.
Mhm.
5 games with at least 19.7, 75.3% completions, 53.7 rushing yards per game, and had scored
Mhm.
4 rushing touchdowns. Then he played against the Panthers. He had the injury in week
Yeah.
7. Since then, the numbers have not been great. They've been mid. He
Oh
has
God.
fallen 6 full points per game, down to 16 since week 8. 59.5% of his passes have been completed. That's way down. That's
Yeah.
a drop of 15.8%. He hasn't been successful on the ground either. And last night, going into the fourth quarter, he had 5.4 points. And if it weren't for that last drive where he had the touchdown pass to Ertz and then the 2-point, he ended up with like 13 points, which is still not good.
No.
But boy, it could have been way worse. And when you look at the schedule, now he's got the Cowboys next, so he'll smoke the Cowboys. At least I think he would. The Cowboys suck. After that, remainder of the fantasy season, the defenses he faced, all right, have allowed
Yeah.
the 18th, 9th, 4th, and 16th fewest fantasy points to quarterbacks. So 2 of them are kind of middle of the road. 2 of the matchups are really tough. So I don't think he's a must start anymore. And this is a guy who I love Jayden Daniels. He was my breakout quarterback for this season
Yeah.
back in the preseason. I if I have Bo Nix with a better matchup or something to that effect, now I think you got to think about maybe the rib injury is affecting him. I don't
Yeah.
know, but he has
It seems
not
like
been
it.
as good from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, it feels like he's battling through that ribs injury and that's impacting his game. You also have to take into consideration the possibility that like now he's put enough stuff on tape that defenses have kind of picked up on some
Sure.
patterns and know how to attack this offense. It's funny. I always bring up Terry McLaurin and my obsession with him being locked down on the left side, right, running all of his routes out of that. I was at a party yesterday. This is me at parties. I'm like, did you know? And
How
so
many
drop that
how
stat.
many drinks in were you, by the way?
There were a couple of I was a couple of drinks
Uh-huh.
in, but that's
Got it.
these are the kinds of conversations that I bring up at parties. But
That's
anyway,
what makes you cool, man.
that's it. I'm
That and then
the
did you
cool
talk
girl.
wrestling too?
We didn't talk wrestling, but
Okay.
immediately on cue, literally as I finished wrapping up my story about Terry McLaurin being locked down on the left side, he ran a route on the right side and caught the ball. It was his only catch of the game. They were like, "What?" And so I this morning went to Next Gen Stats, pulled up his entire passing chart, like all of his games, and screenshot it and sent it to the person I was talking to. Like I couldn't let it go. I was like, "Promise I'm right."
I'm not lying.
I know. I'm a dork. Anyway, so I don't know what's going on there, but the last 2 weeks have been Jaden Daniels' worst games by EPA, by completion percentage over expectation, by completion percentage, just basic at the offense in general. It's their 2 worst games in terms of yards per play is all the way down to 4.2 and 4.1 yards per play. And they had I want to say their first 7 games. They have 7 games on the season that were over 6 in that category. So they're down almost 2 full yards each. So yeah, something's going on with the offense there, and we'll see if they can turn that around. The Eagles, I mean, it was a great game for Saquon Barkley. Obviously, hope you started him because 198 total yards, 2 touchdowns, a monster fantasy outing for him. Wasn't really like a particularly exciting. Jalen Hurts got there, but it wasn't an outstanding outing for them. But
This
I'll tell
was
you what, if I'm an Eagles fan, just in general, taking the fantasy out of it, I'm feeling pretty good about what I'm seeing from them.
all right, dirtbags. Let's talk about other ways to play fantasy football. Do you guys know about PrizePicks? It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks.
You can turn your hot takes into cash. Fabs, listen here to figure out which players have the best matchups of the week. We always talk about guys that we like more or less depending on their matchup. Then take that information and flip on over to PrizePicks. See if you think that those players that we talked about will have more or less than the numbers that they have attached to them. It could be number of catches. It could be number of yards. It could be number of touchdowns. You can do it all in less than 60 seconds. It's quick and easy. And if you have a strong take about a guy that you don't have on your fantasy team, this is the place to put that take to work for you. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code FANTASYDIRT and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FANTASYDIRT on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need a win to receive the $50 bonus. It's like free money, guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
Jalen Hurts has actually averaged like well over 20 points per game in his career against the Commanders. So this was a little bit of a disappointment. He didn't have a touchdown pass, but he had a touchdown run with the entire tush push thing. And speaking of that, there was a tweet that was posted by Benjamin Solak on ESPN last night, and it's fascinating. Yep. Now, Saquon Barkley has been awesome. 28 touches, 2 catches, 198 total yards, had 2 touchdowns, and 33.8 fantasy points last night. And he's the best running back in fantasy football. He's right up there, of course, with Derrick Henry. Listen to these stats, guys. We had talked about this in the preseason, and this was part of the reason why I think people didn't want to draft him in the first round. I was like, he's a first-round pick, late first rounder. A lot of people didn't want it because of the vulturing. Mm-hmm. So Saquon has had 9 touches that ended at the 1-yard line. Obviously, the opponent's 1-yard line. That's the most in the NFL. On the next play, and I'll go in order, Jalen Hurts touchdown, Jalen Hurts touchdown, Jalen Hurts rush, then he rushed for a touchdown on the second play. Jalen Hurts touchdown, Jalen Hurts touchdown, Saquon carry, lost yardage, Jalen Hurts touchdown pass, Jalen Hurts fumble, Jalen Hurts touchdown. So that's 2, 4, 6 rushing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts, where Barkley was tackled at the 1-yard line. Imagine we could be talking about an historic season for Saquon. Now, he's been awesome, like I said, but we could talk about a historic season if he hadn't been tackled at the 1-yard line 9 times. Yeah, we'll take what we're getting from him because he's been great for the most part. But imagine that, hell, Lindsay, even if it was like 5 of those 9 were in the end zone, that's another 30 points on his total.
Totally. That we would not be seeing though if he was with the Giants. Like
Oh, no. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying like because after the game they're like, "Thank you, Giants," and all of this stuff, and I get that. I mean, thank you for giving him away so that we can enjoy his talents. But honestly, like I almost think that should be said without sarcasm because Saquon would not be doing any of this in that Giants offense. And this is why we had questions about Saquon because running backs in bad offenses, oftentimes we just don't get to see this kind of consistent production. And so they feel like running backs, high-end running backs feel like the luxury that only belong in good offenses. Because otherwise the bad offenses will beat them down, will question whether or not they still have it. All of this stuff, the advanced stats don't help. Like there isn't a way to really pull out the rushing talent outside the environment. And so it's hard to know. But so I'm honestly thankful that the Giants let him go. And I don't think it was a bad move on their end because again, he wouldn't be helping them. We wouldn't be seeing this there. But also I'm glad that we get to see this. Like this is fun. Just as a football fan, I want to see Saquon Barkley at his peak. I want to see him doing all of the things that he's capable of doing. And this is the only type of environment in which he can do that.